I am super excited to do a video today at the request of Tauren Wells. Most of you are familiar with my In Case You Missed It series, where we evaluate the theology of our modern worship songs and we just sort of check them against the Bible and see if what's being sung is true, whether or not we should participate in that. Well, as many of you know, one of my recent videos, Afraid With You, we evaluated that in light of theology, and Tauren Wells commented on the video and asked me to review it with a different mindset. So I reviewed it with a theological mindset. Is this true? Is it a good worship song? And quite frankly, I'm going to stand behind what I said in that video, seeing it as a worship song. But Tauren is actually, it's great because we actually have the opinion of the person who wrote the song. This was not written as a worship song. It doesn't belong on Christian radio. It's not a worship song. Tauren wrote this for his wife. So, Mr. Wells, although we've never met in person, I am so honored to be asked to review this with a new perspective, seeing that you wrote it for your wife. So I'm hoping to do a great job here. I appreciate everybody's support. Make sure you watch to the end. I'm going to go ahead and give you the full, unfiltered pastoral response to this song. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And if you haven't seen my review of the original song, I'll put a link to that so you can see that, because there are some legitimate things in the song you should look into before you just sing it unreservedly. But let's look at this. So the song, I'll Be Afraid With You. It's a catchy tune. It's a nice song. First of all, I think what we got to do is we got to just scratch the entire last paragraph. God is saying that if you're going to be like him, you have to love like him. You have to love people who don't think like you, who don't look like you, who don't vote like you. So first of all, I don't think that fits in this song. And I'm just extending the benefit of the doubt to Mr. Wells here, because honestly, if your wife is struggling and having a hard time, the last thing you need to do is tell her how she has to be for God. That would be a big, big no-no. I don't think he's trying to say his wife has a problem loving people that don't look like her. If she does, let's keep that private. Let's let her and the Lord work on that. Let's not go into that. But the premise of the song here, if we'll look at this, it's I'm going to be afraid with you too. And so the first verse, when the weight of the pain's too heavy, when you're lost and you're scared to death, I want to feel it too. And I discuss the difference between sympathy and empathy and which one has more place in a Christian's life. And I discussed that in my original review of the song. I would send you back that direction. Keep looking at that, because these ideas of sympathy versus empathy, we still want to work on that. But I want to get right here. And first of all, let's look at this. If you let me in, I'll listen to the voices in your head. I'll meet you in the middle of your mess. Okay, well, we can't listen to someone else's head, and I realize there's some poetic, artistic license that happens in a song, so maybe she's going to tell you what the voices in her head are saying, and you'll sit there with her. That's excellent. Sitting with someone in their mess when they're struggling is good, but I want to talk about the ethics of the thing here. If someone you know is experiencing voices in their head, I want to make sure that I don't project any sort of stigma or shame with that. Just as I would say that if someone's arm is broken, they should go to the doctor. That's the same attitude I'd have with mental health. It's not your fault. We're not going to blame you. We're not going to shame you. But if something's broken, hey, let's work towards health. Let's get some help. And the wonderful thing about the 21st century is there are a lot of qualified mental health professionals. There are a lot of great Christian counseling resources you can get into. I'm actually on the board of directors for Restored Life Ministries. That's a Christian counseling center. Love it. I love all mental health. But if your wife is experiencing voices in her head, she's going to need more than a hug. She's going to need more than you to sit with her. That is the time to consider professional counseling. And honestly, what I do is I said I'm going to talk about the ethics of the thing. And I think the general ethic we want to remember is that we don't want to hurt anyone. We don't want to do harm. And we can do harm two ways. We can commit harm towards someone, or we can withhold something, and that ends up harming them. And unless you're a qualified mental health counselor, which I'm not. I have a master's degree in Christian counseling, but I would not consider myself, I'm certainly not licensed. I wouldn't consider myself an expert by any means, but I'd suggest that you start with your local pastor. Your local pastor should have some equipping. If he doesn't, find a new pastor. But you need pastors that are equipped to help people deal with this, and he'll be able to hopefully get you started in that triage process and let you know, are these issues so serious that we can just deal with them on a casual Christian level, or do we need to take this into licensed mental health arena? Hopefully Christian, if we can find that. What level of care do we need? And so I would start with a conversation with your pastor. This is a great time to go. This is why God put shepherds and overseers of his body. Hey, my wife's having voices in her head. Can we please get on to that? So the first thing I would suggest to you, Tauren, is if your wife is experiencing that, maybe don't write about that fully in a song. It's something called appropriate transparency. We don't want to be overly transparent and vulnerable with people unless it's a safe place to do so. But let's respect the privacy there. Let's respect that issue, and then let's take that to a mental health place and get some treatment. Let's get healthy. Let's cherish our wives as God has called to do, which means to nurture and to help them when they need help. So we look at that, and that's just my thing. And I love the tone of this whole song. Come a little closer, let your secrets out. You can let the walls down. You can be yourself. When the weight of the pain's too heavy, when you're lost and scared to death, I want to feel it too. I love that attitude, and especially when we're seeing this as written as a song to your wife, not a worship song, that's a whole new deal. So let's not market it as a Christian song, right? Because then all the discerning Christians are going to be like, why is he marketing this as a worship song? Because it's not. It's a song to your wife that made it to public radio. So we need to let the Christian stations know, don't play this on your station. This isn't a Christian song. Let's move that over to the pop section, or let me put it out privately. That'd be a great place for this. Let's not muddy it with God. Let's keep worship and then private love letters to my wife separate. Let's do it that way. I love the attitude, though, of sitting and talking with your wife and listening. And I think most husbands need to grow in that skill. And I would say, Mrs. Wells, I've never met you in person either. But as your husband has asked me to review it with this, I would just say, man, what a catch. I'm so happy that your husband is willing to sit down and listen with you. I wish more men were willing to do that with their wives, and I think that's great. But let me add here, Tauren, we're called to lead our families well. Men bear the spiritual responsibility of the heads of their home, and it's our job to lead our wives to the Lord and to Christ. And I would again go back to that empathy versus sympathy, and I talked about this at more length in my original video. But ultimately, your wife doesn't need you to sit with her. Your wife needs the Lord, and it's your job to help her get there. So I would suggest Jesus Christ is able to help heal. He's able to help the hurts. He's able to do all that. Instead of just sitting with someone that's hurting, we do want to listen with them. And listening is the first step of great counseling and being a good friend in any relationship, is I just want to listen to you and try to put my mind in your perspective, but then we want to move past that. And a lot of people never make it to the listening stage. So congratulations. That's excellent. That is stage one. We like that. But then we want to build on that. And we want to move from listening to gently shepherding towards the truth. Because as the Bible tells us, God hasn't given us a spirit of fear. The Bible tells us perfect love casts out fear. Believers are not to live in fear. So we're going to want to share that gospel message with the wife. We're going to want to sit with her. We're going to want to read our scriptures together. We're going to want to pray together. We're going to want to take her to church together. We want to get some pastoral accountability involved to help us grow in this area. Let's lead towards good and not just sit back and be there with someone. Although I really applaud that as a great first step. So thank you, Tauren Wells, for asking me to do this video for the perspective of you writing it for your wife. I'm thrilled to know that you have the kind of relationship where you do that for your wife. I think that's just a wonderful thing. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and comment to this video if you enjoyed it so you can see more of my content. And if you have any more requests, put them in the comments. I'd be glad to help you out with that as much as I can.